Well, welcome back to Smart Life. We've been talking about intelligent people today, and we had the cheeky scientist on the line in the last segment. He is a cell biologist with quite an education, but being smart isn't just for PhDs anymore. There are a lot of self-educated geniuses out there who are constantly learning and making discoveries through their own personal experimentation. My next guest is bridging the gap between professionals in academia and shade tree scientists. Joseph Jackson is the founder of Biocurious, which is a community where virtually anyone can come and learn. Joseph has, he's going to tell us all about that. Welcome to Smart Life, Joseph.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, well, I have to ask the first and most obvious question. Why did you create Biocurious, and tell us exactly what it means?
Sure. So I have been involved over the last 8, 9 years working with scientists and other entrepreneurs to try to really take what has worked in other areas such as IT. Everybody is familiar with the revolution, the personal computer revolution. We were inspired by this idea that we can democratize this technology and allow whole other types of innovators to really get started for much less expense than has ever been possible before. And we're at this sort of unique point in history. So I was living in Silicon Valley at the time. One of my roommates had finished his PhD and ended up actually setting up a garage lab in our house. And then from there, a lot of people came over to visit, and they were inspired by this whole idea that we're at kind of a tipping point in biological sciences, where it's coming out of the university lab, out of the big corporate R&D environment, and within the realm, the reach of citizen scientists, as we like to sometimes use that term.
And that's so fascinating because we talk all the time about how really the internet has provided citizens opportunity to do things that we couldn't do before. We can diagnose ourselves by by putting something in a search engine. We can and you're saying, for example, that this is a really important part of technology that people may not even be aware of yet.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if you look at the history of technologies, they always start out just accessible by a few really kind of early sophisticated users. It costs a lot of money. You look at anything from aviation, the Wright brothers were tinkering around 100 years ago. They were actually bicycle mechanics initially, and then they were out at Kitty Hawk doing their first prototypes and testing flight, and then it led to this whole industry today, the aviation industry. And currently we have people again tinkering with drone technology, something that was initially military predator drones and now is a thriving hobby community or people building their own aerial drones. This is happening across multiple industries and multiple fields, all driven by this democratization of these enabling technologies. And for us, we have been trying to build places for people to come together and do science in a different way. So we have this community lab. We have a new facility here in Carlsbad, just been really open since July, and we're incubating all sorts of inventors and entrepreneurs who are trying to, actually come up with the next breakthrough and to really address urgent needs that are not met in the current system.
That is so fascinating. Now tell us about this trend of biohacking and how this relates to what you're telling us.
Right. So the term, the label biohacking kind of invokes a lot of strong feelings. The media tends to pick up on this term. It really is kind of an allusion to the idea of a hacker is a creative inventor that comes up with a solution to a problem. Originally, the origins of the term are in computer science and computer engineering, where you think of, someone that modifies, whatever, their toaster to send, a message whenever the toast is done. You can actually put a sensor now on your toaster, notify your smartphone when it's ready.
Wow.
So it's this idea of playing with technology. of pursuing these creative solutions. And in biology, what we're trying to do is to open up the ability to do this innovation to a set of people that aren't necessarily going to spend 30 years doing a PhD and a postdoc, and then may or may not be able to get an academic position, of which there are fewer now available due to budget and funding cuts. So biohacking and DIY bio initially started in 2008 is when the first group in Boston launched, and it's become a worldwide phenomenon so far. There are dozens of groups in different cities around the world, and they're at different levels of sophistication. Some of them don't have any lab. They just meet as a hobbyist enthusiast group a few times a month at the house of one of the members, and they're doing basic science experiments.
It is just so
Others
cool.
are much more sophisticated.
I've read so many articles out there about unlocking our, I guess, our own brains. How can we biohack our own brains and get smarter?
Right. Okay. So this is another kind of issue relating to the term of biohacking, and I guess it's a broad term that means different things to different groups. So there's a whole other set of people that are really hacking their own body biology and trying to do performance hacks. It can be as simple as productivity tricks to obviously diet, exercise, to more sophisticated kind of biofeedback where you'll hook up to EEG readers, look at your brain waves, and learn how to kind of modulate your attention span to try to get better performance out of our current biology. So you can do direct transcranial magnetic stimulation is something that's been proposed, where people will actually build this system to administer a localized current to their brain. And again, it ranges the spectrum from some things that are kind of extreme to others that are pretty standard kind of self-help type activities. And in the future, this is, by all accounts, going to become more and more sophisticated, and we will have the technologies to actually really quite dramatically alter our physiology and our performance, and this can be quite controversial.
Okay, well, I was going to ask, if you find the solution to biohacking our own brain and making ourselves smarter, thinner, whatever it is, and you find that in your garage, I mean, what FDA is going to let you pass that? None. So how will the average citizen out there even know this is happening? And you only have just actually 1 minute to answer this.
Sure. So I don't know if you're familiar with open source movement and Wikipedia and these types of open access phenomenon, right?
So it'll have to be those places where people can read.
People are sharing this already on the internet. All the time. You can look up body hacking. You can look up quantified self as another movement where people do all this type of self-tracking. People are sharing their discoveries all the time freely on the internet.
Well, that's a great place to end this. Tell us exactly how people can find you and the science that you're working on.
Yeah, so they can come to biotech, letter N, beyond.com, biotech and beyond in Carlsbad.
Awesome.
And we are a community lab facility for science enthusiasts and entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today, Joseph. And we are going to go now to April Braswell talking about the ways people are successfully increasing their IQ. So you're not going to want to miss that. Stay with us on Smart Life.